Hey everyone, this is Mike Tholfsen, and we are here for our very first Ask Mike Anything AMA. And this is the maiden voyage, and we're going to have a lot of fun by taking any questions you have about Microsoft or ask me anything about whatever. And hopefully we'll have a lot of fun here. Now, before we get started, I know there's a lot of people from all over the world who are going to be joining in. And so let me know in the comments, where are you coming from? What's your name? And where are you joining us from? And we'll try and put some of those up on the screen and get a sense for where people are coming from. So feel free to post in there and let us know. Now, the goal here is, I work on the Microsoft education team, and I get a lot of questions about a lot of different things and a lot of different products. And so I'm hoping to answer as many questions as I can to help anyone out there, and especially educators out there, figure out Microsoft education products and get rolling in whatever way you need to. And I'll also say, I am not going to be a tech support person. So if your question is something like, I have a 3-year-old PC, and when I boot it, the sound doesn't come out right on the old speakers, I'm probably not going to be able to answer that one. But I'll try to answer as many product questions and other things that you have on top of your mind. Okay, so let's see. We have Nicole from the US. We have Dave from Canada. We have people from Scotland. We have England. We've got Katie in Canada. People in Germany, Panama, and India. So all sorts of great countries coming in live right now. And I'm going to take a question right here. So the first one, this one is about Immersive Reader. And so what I'm going to do is pop that one up onto the screen. And the question from Brian is, when will Office apps have Immersive Reader available on iPad? Now, good news is Office already does have some apps available on iPad with Immersive Reader. Not all of them, but for example, Immersive Reader is already on OneNote for iPad. It's in Word on iPad. It's in Office Lens for iPad. And Office Lens is a free app for iPad or iPhone or Android. And one area that we are hoping to bring to in the future, and I'm never promising any dates, but we know it's a top request for Teams on iPad to have a conversation and chat having the Immersive Reader. So we've heard you loud and clear on that one. And then also the other one, you can actually access Immersive Reader on iPad for Teams assignments. So if you're in assignments in Teams, the actual Immersive Reader button is already there. Now we hope to add it to many other apps in Office in the future, and that might include PowerPoint or OneDrive, but the ones that I mentioned are already there. So hopefully that is helpful. Okay, let's see. We have another question. This is from Danielle, who's in the US. And Danielle asks, what is the best way to ink with students during live instruction? Whiteboard is not always visible by attendees. Any tips? So there's a couple ways. Whiteboard is a great way. So Whiteboard is built into Teams meetings. And when you're in the Teams meetings, you can hit the share button and you can add a whiteboard and you can do live inking and students can join in as well. And it sounds like Whiteboard's not always visible to the attendees. And I'm not exactly sure why that is. Typically, when you share a whiteboard in a meeting, it should show up for everyone. So I don't know the exact setup that you're talking about. Another option, and I got to be honest, this one's near and dear to my heart. As someone who has a OneNote cape on my chair, another great way is to use OneNote. And what a lot of educators do with live inking and OneNote is they have a class notebook and they use the content library as the place where they're putting their live inking and live notes and live instruction. Content library is read-only for all the students, so they receive a copy of that in real time, and they can still take notes in their private binders. And so what you might be able to do is something like share your OneNote content library in Teams, let's say, if you're doing remote teaching, and then do the live inking in the content library. You can always create another page in the content library so you can organize them, and then that will also go to the students. And so those are a couple options for live instruction. You can use Whiteboard, and you can also use OneNote. There's another question. This is from Madhvi in India. And Madhvi asks, how should we work with Flipgrid? So Flipgrid is also that. I love Flipgrid. The Flipgrid team's amazing. I work with them all the time. Our good friend Justin Chando, who used to be on Teams for Education, moved over to Flipgrid, and he's having a blast over there. So the question on how should we use Flipgrid? So Flipgrid, if you don't know, is a video response tool. Now that's the sort of official description, but Flipgrid is kind of like an infinite canvas. One of the things I love about Flipgrid that's similar to how OneNote is an open canvas. And what that means is that you can do with it whatever you want. And that's why a lot of educators like it. So what you can do with Flipgrid, for example, is you can create all sorts of questions. Maybe it's simple as, hey, we're going to make a book report and I want you to record a video response on how that book report was. Talk about the main characters. Maybe it is something about presenting. Hey, I'd like you to pitch me this concept in your class about something new that you're going to build in class. And you can make a video assignment and the students can respond to that video and other students can comment on it. There are all sorts of things you can do with Flipgrid in terms of the creativity. We've had students show their work and how they do math and hold that up. There's a little whiteboard in Flipgrid that you can actually work out your math. It can be used for drama. It can be used for history. And the thing is instead of me telling you all the different ways, the best thing to do is check out the Discovery Library. The Flipgrid Discovery Library is where all of the educators of the world and partners put their incredible content and all sorts of lesson plans and ideas and great things you can do with Flipgrid. And it's always getting better. And it's really infused by the creativity of educators. I also happen to have a video I made on that. I've made a video of the brand new Flipgrid Discovery Library. And so what also will be, we've got actually Maryline Hoekstra behind the scenes, who's incredible. I've worked with Maryline and many of you also have, whether it's the tweet meets or other community activities. She'll be helping out and putting some of the video links in comments if there's actual, quick tips that you can watch. And for those of you who are new to the channel here, one thing I'll sort of emphasize really quick that is helpful. I've got a YouTube channel and I've got the link here, and I've been putting out really since the pandemic started. I've really wanted to help focus educators and answer questions to help them with remote learning or hybrid learning. I was getting flooded by people asking questions like, how do I set up Teams? Like, how do I do live meetings? How do I use OneNote? What can I use for accessibility tools? And so I just started creating these little quick tip videos. And the goal is to get you up and running really fast without spending, you don't watch a 30-minute video. You can watch a really short video, or I often will bunch a bunch of tips into one video. But this is really designed to help anyone out there learn about Microsoft products really quick and hopefully in a useful way. And so I encourage you, check out the channel, subscribe, and I'm always putting out more and more tips out there. And actually, as a bonus, for those of you that might be younger, if YouTube is just too long for you, I've even started putting out little, I call them micro tips. Instead of Microsoft, it's micro tip on TikTok. I don't do any dancing, but I put out under 1 minute micro tips on TikTok. And my TikTok alias is actually the same as my Twitter alias. So my Twitter handle's on the screen at @mtholfsen, and my TikTok alias is the same at @mtholfsen. So there's a few different ways you can get tips. And so I encourage you, especially if you're struggling trying to figure out all these new technologies and new features. And my goal really is to help you out there and to get up and running as fast as possible. Okay, let's go back and check out another question here. Let's see. We have one here on page templates. When are page templates going to be available in OneNote? This is from Nicole in the US. And so page templates are part of OneNote, and they're very rich. We actually have added, and not maybe 6 months ago, we added page templates into OneNote Windows 10. Now, it's not as rich and detailed as the desktop, but if you go into OneNote for Windows 10 and let's say you create a page that's a template-like page, you can right-click on that page and save as a template. And so there's actually ways to save templates right now and apply them. You can't have a whole library of the pre-created templates like in 2016, but you can create page templates in OneNote for Windows 10. And the other thing I'll mention, just for those of you that are OneNote fans out there, and actually for the OneNote fans, something very special. And this was a gift that the mother of an educator, Iceman Tuck on Twitter, he's amazing. He's an awesome educator out there. His mom actually has made a few OneNote masks, and Iceman Tuck's mom made me this. Look at this. This is beautiful. In a pandemic, you really do need to have a OneNote mask. Like this is, Iceman Tuck's mother. Thank you so much for making this. I think this is amazing. It's really high quality. I don't know if you can see that. It's very soft, and I can be repping OneNote when I walk out. So not only do I have a cape, I got a little mask going on here too. And so this is something I thought it's kind of fun to share. They're not mass produced, so you can't order this right now, unfortunately. But if you're really nice to Iceman Tuck, his mom might make you one. So I figured I'd throw that about OneNote. We are working on, actually right now and very soon, we're going to start rolling out the rejuvenated OneNote desktop, the OneNote 2016. So for those of you that weren't aware, we are raising from the almost dead OneNote 2016. We are bringing new features back into it. We're putting the modern sync into it, so it'll have the same sync engine as all the other versions of OneNote. And we'll be adding other capabilities later in the year. We're hoping to add some of the math features back into OneNote desktop. We're hoping to build the immersive reader natively into OneNote, so there's no little add-in for the desktop, the old learning tools add-in that's pretty old at this point. Even building dictation in at some point. So watch out for OneNote for Windows 10, OneNote desktop. And probably starting in the coming weeks and months, that's going to slowly start rolling out broadly. So keep your eye out for OneNote desktop. Okay, let's see. We've got some more questions here. Let's see. Now here's a good one. This is from Diovert in Panama. So welcome. The question is, and I'll put that up, what is the best way to change from year to next with Teams, groups, and class notebook created? New ones must be created, or the information you recommend can be deleted. And so what I would recommend, a couple of things. You can archive your teams at the end of the year. So you can put the team into an archive state, and it sets it to read only. So people can't go in and mess with it, but it's still there and the content is available, meaning you can create, you can pull all the assignments in from there and other things. So a lot of times people will archive their old teams, and maybe the policy of your IT admin is, hey, after a year or two, delete those old teams. Now for Class Notebook, and again, there's a nice video for this where I show exactly how to do it. I actually have a whole, I just recently put out the 20 top tips of Class Notebook, my top 20 tips and tricks for Class Notebook. And one of the tips in that video is the ability to import existing or old content from an old notebook into your new notebook in Teams. So when you create a new class team in the new term and the new year, when you go to create Class Notebook, you have two options. One is create from a blank notebook, and the other is import content from old notebook or multiple notebooks. And you can pull in old content from the content library. You can pull in content into your teacher only area, which is kind of cool. And that allows you to pull from multiple places at once. So maybe I've got an old math notebook from 2 years ago, and another math notebook from 1 year ago, and a master curriculum notebook that has some other stuff. You can check all those boxes and import all that stuff into your new class notebook in Teams. So it's called the import content feature. So if you haven't seen that, it's really helpful. You can even import content into the teacher only area, which is in your class notebook. So you can repopulate that teacher only area. So highly recommend checking that. And again, it's documented in the video that I've made all about my class notebook tips and tricks that hopefully Maryline will post. We'll also post all the links in the description after this. Okay, let's see here. There's another one. Let me see. Oh, actually, here, I'm just going to put this up. Joy is asking, please let us know if this is recorded and posted to your channel. Yes. So this entire live stream, this entire video is automatically recorded on YouTube, and it will post afterwards. And you can then go over there and check it out and leave comments, and we'll post links in the description and all those other things. Okay, so let's see. Here's another, this one is from Tiffany. Tiffany in the US. And actually, hide that comment, and we'll put up a comment from Tiffany. So Tiffany says, do you have any suggestions on how Power Automate could help educators with productivity? And that is a great question. And that's actually one that we've been really thinking about a lot more recently. So first off, what is Power Automate? Power Automate is a tool that allows you, it's really, if you're a teacher, think about it, this is the ultimate time saver, efficiency. If you're not a teacher, just think about it as a workflow automation, high efficiency tool. It allows you to automate mundane tasks and make it so instead of, it's, you've heard of if this, then that, IFFTT. For example, with Power Automate, you can make a little rule that says, if I receive an email with an attachment, copy that attachment into my OneDrive folder and make it available later. And every mail that you get, instead of saving an attachment to your desktop, uploading one, over and over, this sort of brute force way of doing it, it'll automate it. You can do a bunch of other things. You can do Teams automation. So now I can say things like, click the little ... on any message and create a workflow that saves this message to a task that has a due date that I set. And you just click it, and it makes it. So it's like creating little macros, if you've heard of macros, like from Excel, and just little quick automations. It has things like take this page from an email and send it to OneNote, or take a response I received from a form and ping me in Teams when someone responds to that form that I did. So there's all sorts of options, and it's not just Microsoft products. You can have tips with Twitter integration or blogs, like if new blog post comes from a blog I listen to, or I'm sorry, that I read, then send me an email or ping me in Teams or put a tweet out, or you can combine things. You can make a rule for my YouTube channel. When Mike posts a new YouTube video, ping me and send me an email or something like that. So I've also, again, back to the quick tip videos, I've made an educator focused quick tip video on how to use and set up Power Automate. And so that's one you can watch. The other thing, and maybe I'll try to do a screen share here. What I'm going to do is pull up my screen. So 1 second, I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to show we've actually put together some product pages on the educator community, and we've even made some courses on how to use Power Automate. So I'm here on the educator community, and I will actually, I'll post this in the comments. I'll also put this and put this out afterwards. But we've actually got these product pages. So if you've signed into the educator community and drop down products, choose see all, and that's what I've got here. And there's all sorts of product pages. And these are really focused on getting you up and running with a specific product in education. So I've got one here that is the Power Automate one. I'm just going to click here. So what we've done is put together Power Automate, and you can see there's quick tip videos across the page, and there's little labels. There's how to get started, view the Power Automate YouTube channel, join the community. There's a MEC course. So we even made a MEC course on Power Automate for educators. Use Power Automate to increase productivity. I can start the course, I can get a badge. So all of those things are really nice in terms of getting up to speed with Power Automate. And we believe Power Automate is one of the most underutilized features and products for educators, mainly because if you ask an educator, what's the one thing that you wish you had more of, or if I could give you anything, what would it be? Most of them I talk to say time. I would like more time, please. And so getting more time back, I think, is a really critical way that Power Automate can help you. So if you haven't checked it out, please do, and we'll have links in the description afterwards. And hopefully Marilyn has been able to add comments as well back to people. Okay, let's see if we have some other questions here, and I will go back and unshare my screen there. Okay, how about, let's see, Minecraft. Here's a good question, and I'm not going to give the definitive answer, but I will say that we've been listening intently to educator feedback. And the question is, will Minecraft Education Edition, Minecraft EDU for schools, be available anytime soon for homeschool students or students who are not part of a local organization? How can independent learning students gain access to Minecraft for Education Edition? So right now, unfortunately, you have to have an Office 365 account to gain access to Minecraft. And what that means is if you have a consumer account, or let's say you're homeschool, for example, or outside of an Office 365 organization, you can't get Minecraft Education Edition. You can use the regular Minecraft, but you can't use the Minecraft Education Edition. Now, we do know, and again, the education team is always listening to feedback. And one of the top pieces of feedback we've heard is, I'd really like to get access to Minecraft Education Edition without an Office 365 ID. So you can't do that, but just know that we're listening closely. We've heard that feedback. We know it's a top request, and we really know that there's a lot of people out there, especially during the pandemic and remote learning, people that would really appreciate it. So, stay tuned, and that's something that we've heard loud and clear. Now, the other thing, actually, and Maryline, maybe what we'll do is, if you want to we're talking about remote learning, and it turns out that Microsoft has an incredible community, and Maryline Hoekstra is sort of our star community manager of the remote learning community, and we're going to put a link up here in just a second for those of you that want to. If you're an educator out there or school system, and you say, "Wow, I need help with remote learning or hybrid learning or distance learning," whatever flavor or version you might be in, like in the UK, for example, we know that there's been a big lockdown again, and that people have had to go to full remote learning again. So we have this incredible community. I believe it's over 7,000 strong or close to it, of educators and school leaders from around the world. There are so many countries represented. And the goal is for this community to collaborate together. The product team is in there. I'm in there. Many of my peers in there, and product team, designers, engineers, and there's a lot of community and engagement people in there to help. But it's a place to learn, to understand what are other best practices happening in my state, my country, the world, and also share and send your feedback to the product team and learn about, whenever we have new updates coming out, we always let the remote learning community know about that. So if you haven't signed up for the remote learning community, definitely go to the link on the screen and you can get signed up and get approved. We will add you. There's a special team. It's a really big team at this point, and we will add you to the team. You can join in there. You can look around. You can ask questions. You can see all the work that's been happening from different schools around the world. And so we encourage people to check that out, and if you haven't already. Okay. Let's look at another question here. This one just came in. This is from Scott on LinkedIn. So, Scott, are they going to get polls to be easier to access? So I'm going to try and answer what I think you're asking. I'm not 100% sure, but we recently released the polls feature in Microsoft Teams. And it's in Microsoft Teams meetings in particular. So before a meeting starts, if you go to the little plus tab, and again, I've got a quick tip video showing exactly how to do this if Maryline wants to put that out. But you will be able to hit the plus tab and add a little quick poll, which is powered by Forms, in the meeting, and then launch it during that meeting. So that's something that recently rolled out. Yeah. Oh, and Scott just said yes, in Teams. So you can currently do that today, and you can add multiple polls. You can launch them during the meeting. We add a little icon at the top for Forms that says that allows you, the organizer, to gather feedback. The part that is not as simple yet, and this is probably what Scott is referencing, and unfortunately, it's software, and sometimes software takes a little bit longer and more complicated in some ways versus others. So we're able to get out the quick polls in Teams for standalone Teams meetings. The place where it's not supported yet is for channel meetings. And a lot of people use channel meetings in Teams. A lot of educators use channel meetings. If you're an organization, or you might be using channel meetings for a recurring meeting. Polls are not yet supported in channel meetings. Now, the good news is we've heard you loud and clear. We heard you loud and clear the day we launched polls, is that it doesn't work in channel meetings yet. Please make that happen. And so we are actively working on adding the channel meeting support for polls. We hope to have that out in the next, I'll say, couple of months, maybe sooner, but say a couple of months. Yeah, and Scott had said some people are not seeing the plus tab. Now, my guess is that those are for channel meetings. They're not seeing the plus tab. And the goal is channel meetings will support that plus tab to be able to add polls in the nearest future. I'll take another one from LinkedIn. This one just came in. This is from Bob. So Bob asks, is there an update or something I'm missing on breaking out controls when presenting? I get asked easier ways to moderate while presenting, and yes, it can be challenging. So yeah, this one definitely that we just released this into public preview, I think 2 days ago. And again, I made a quick tip video for it. It's called Presenter View in Teams. Now, Bob, if you're not seeing it yet, hang tight because it's in what's called the Teams public preview right now. And Teams, the public preview concept is important to know what it is, because that's a way your organization can, if you and your IT admin has to do this. And again, I've got a quick tip video showing how to join the Teams public preview. Your IT admin has to go and join the public preview. Once you're in that, any new feature like this presenter view, you will get access to that immediately. So this new presenter view, which I'll talk about in a second, is coming out in, well, it's in public preview. It's coming out broadly in the next couple of weeks. It's going to start rolling out globally. And actually what I might even do here is, I'll share my screen again, and I'll pull up what it looks like here. So I'll put this on the screen. Give me just a second. And this is my YouTube page. You can see there's this presenter in Teams. I'll launch this to go full screen. We've added presenter view right into Teams as well. So that's going to be rolling out in the next, I'm going to say 2 weeks or so. And so once that is rolled out, then you'll have access to it. So if you're not seeing it now, this is sort of showing presenter view behind the scenes. So here's an example where these are the notes. So if I'm presenting, I can see my notes. I can go and sort of see the chat behind the screens. And that's the biggest request we've had is, oh my gosh, I'm like having to take my phone out and look at my phone while I'm trying to present and see other stuff happening. And so this presenter view in Teams will sort of let you do that. So give it just a couple of weeks and that presenter view will be fully rolled out. Okay. So another question we've got here, this is coming in from Nick. So Nick on LinkedIn is asking, can you tell me more about how Microsoft EDU and Microsoft Translator came together to develop the inclusive classroom features for ESL students? Yes, I can tell that story, very much so. So first off, what is Microsoft Translator? And for those of you that don't know what Translator is, and of course there are quick tips for that, I've got deep dive demos on my channel that show all sorts of scenarios with Translator in the inclusive classroom. But Translator is a free app on iPhone or iOS, Android, that will let you translate in real time and have other people connect. So the way to think about it is like if you're a Star Trek fan, Universal Translator. Multiple people can connect to a device and set their own language. So I talk in English in my device. They connect via QR code with other devices, and they can set their language. So as I'm talking in English, it translates in Spanish and Arabic and Chinese and Norwegian. And when you talk or type in Arabic, let's say, it goes back to me in English. It translates Arabic to Norwegian, Arabic to Spanish. So it's kind of mind-blowing. It's pretty crazy of how sort of Translator works all up. And so this is incredibly impactful for English language learners. Now, the technology for Translator, and I work with the Translator team, is something that, and actually I work on the Immersive Reader. So for those of you that know me, I work on the Immersive Reader amongst many other products at Microsoft. And a couple of years ago, we said, wow, and we heard from a lot of teachers, it's a great Immersive Reader, and it's great that it can read other languages when there are other languages. What if I have English language learners and they want to translate the content and then read it out loud? And wouldn't that be magical? And we thought, yeah, that would be pretty cool. So we did a bunch of work. We worked with the Translator team behind the scenes. We worked with some other groups at Microsoft, and we wired it up so I can do Translator now. And I've got a page of English in the Immersive Reader. I can drop it down and say, translate by word or translate the entire document to another language. So then what it does is it translates, let's say, the whole document to Spanish. And then I can hit read aloud. It'll read it out loud in Spanish. It will break the syllables and highlight the parts of speech and all those other things in that same language. So, I mean, we've shown that to teachers and parents, and they fall out of their chairs because it's quite powerful. And there's other places. Imagine now we also integrated Immersive Reader into Office Lens. So the mind blower that I love to show is you take a photo of a book with Office Lens, open it in the Immersive Reader, and then translate it to another language right there on your device, and then read it out loud. So photo, translate, read out loud. And so the background with how that came to be, the translator team existed, and I was working in education. And there's this really great guy. He recently retired from Microsoft. His name is Will Lewis, like one of the best PMs I've worked with. And he worked on the translator team, and he has for a really long time. And we got together and started talking about some of these sort of integrated immersive reader and translation scenarios probably 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And we said, wow, this could be really powerful. And Will and I worked together with a lot of schools because the translator team at the time wasn't focusing as much on education. And I was like, Will, like this could be a huge, huge deal for education. So let's start working with schools to experiment with parent night. Like we would have parents come in, and the person up in the front starts a translator session and communicates with all the different parents out there in their native language. Now, during a pandemic, that's crucial. How do you have a parent-teacher conference during a pandemic where it used to be you'd have a real live person translating for the parent? Now you can't meet in person. That parent doesn't speak the native language. They're out of luck. And so translator is being used for online parent nights for pandemic, parent-teacher conferences during a pandemic, students using these capabilities, and translator is incredibly powerful. They've actually launched more languages very recently. I think there's 5 new languages that just came out. Even got, I think, like Macedonia recently. We got a few of the last European countries we didn't have. We're always adding more languages. And we're pulling that translation information into Immersive Reader and launching those as well. So the other part about the inclusive classroom was, again, I'll just a little bit of storytelling here. So I work with a lot of schools and school districts and talk about, we'll call it accessibility tools. And what I found probably starting 4 years ago when I was talking to a lot of school districts, if I would go in there and say, hey, I'm Mike, and we're going to talk about accessibility. And that word, unfortunately, accessibility, is very linked in a lot of people's minds to, oh, that means screen readers for blind and low vision and maybe deaf and hard of hearing tools. It is, people pigeonhole accessibility to mean certain things. And so every time I'd say, I'm here to talk about accessibility, in some form or another, someone would say, oh, I always sort of joke, they would say, go talk to Frank in the basement. He's our accessibility tools. He has all the screen readers. Like, Frank will help you out. And so I started saying, why don't we frame this as the inclusive classroom bit instead? Like, go in talking to schools and say, do you care about reading, writing, math, or communication? Oh, great, because we have inclusive tools that are going to help with those things. And so it would just reframe that conversation, and inclusive communication and ESL and ELL and non-native speakers and their parents and families became a big part of that whole sort of pivot from accessibility to this inclusive design concept. So a little long-winded, but it's kind of fun to tell a story here too. Okay, another question here. This one is from Samuel. Any idea when the allow attendees to unmute policy will come into the Teams admin center? And that is a good question. So the allow attendees to unmute, that's something an educator can turn that feature on to block, to say, I don't want anyone to unmute. It's sort of like disable their microphone mode. And that is rolled out now. And the question is, will that be rolling to the IT admin center anytime soon? So unfortunately on that one, I don't have an exact date. So I can't say like, oh yes, it's this time or that time. I can't tell you on that one. But what I can tell you is the Teams admin center very recently, like in the last week, I haven't even made a video for it yet, but if you go on the web and search for it, you'll be able to find, we just rolled out, we call it like the easy IT admin for education settings. We've now wrapped a bunch of policies and kind of the complexities of that. When you sign in as IT admin in education, it pops up a big thing like, are you a K-12? Are you in higher ed school? And you pick one, and then it says like, gives you some policy packages to easily deploy. And then any new user that gets added in the future will get automatically installed with all those policies. So it's kind of like making life easier for the IT admin in schools. And so it can pull together a lot of the right meeting policies and the chat policies and some of those other things, and set some different defaults based on K-12 or higher ed. That is actually rolled out now. So if you haven't gone into your Teams IT admin settings, for those of you who are IT admins, go in there, and if you're an education institution, you'll see those new settings rolled out. So hopefully that helps. Okay, one other thing, and this is one that has it's been asked many times, and I don't have it in a comment right now. But I will say this: a lot of people have asked me over the years. So I have, for those of you that know me, I have this OneNote cape. I like to wear OneNote capes around sometimes. I've been known to sport a cape, and people have said, "Yeah, hey Mike, where did this whole OneNote cape thing come from? It's it seems strange, cool, but like, where did that come from? The origin story of the cape." And so I'll tell it now, because I've been asked this so many times over the years. And so here's the first part: is it wasn't invented by me. I'm a strong believer in the cape, but the full credit goes here, and I'll tell the story of how this kind of came to be, and I'll share my screen again so you can see a picture. Let's see here. Let me just switch over and share my screen one more time. I've got a photo up I'm going to show. So for those of you that know Ari Shore, so Ari Shore and I worked together a long time. And he's in marketing. He used to be. He's actually moved on. He's a PM now. But Ari Shore is a guy who I worked with starting 6 years ago, probably at least tied for the best marketing person I've ever worked with. Like, I love the guy like a little nephew, you could say. Ari and I worked together a long time. And he had just joined OneNote Marketing, and I had recently gotten back into OneNote. I had worked on OneNote for many years back when OneNote was sort of brand new, and then I left the team, and then I came back later. Here's a picture of Ari and I. Ari's the guy on the left. I'm the guy on the right with the cape. We were toasting each other. This was in Norway. We were saying "Skål" at the top of the Holmenkollen, if there's any Norway fans out there. So anyways, Ari was fresh out of school, and he still looks like he's 12. So Ari, if you ever see this, yeah, I'm sorry, buddy, but it's true. And Ari was the new OneNote marketing guy, and I was the new OneNote education guy. I'd come back to OneNote after 5 years. I became a PM, product manager, and we were working on this new class notebook thing. And Ari had been in the company, and somewhere in the company, there was, I believe, was an attorney who was really passionate about OneNote. And the person got like a little OneNote cape made that the attorney inside of Microsoft got it made because he was so into OneNote. And he saw Ari, and he's like, "Ari, you should have this cape. You're the OneNote marketing guy." And Ari's like, "Oh, this is really cool. This is awesome." And Ari wore it at an internal meeting. And then soon after that, Ari and I were chatting, and we were getting ready to go to our very first BET conference in London. Actually, BET is happening right now in January. And the BET conference in London is the sort of world's largest ed tech conference in the Rory and I had, because I was way into one. I was like, "Oh man, I need a cape too." And so we got a few more made. And Ari and I said, "Oh, let's bring a few of these capes to the BET conference. We could wear capes. It'll kind of be goofy." And so we get to the BET conference, and Ari and I are we put on our capes and we're flying around, and people started going crazy. And I mean, people were begging us for these capes. They're, "Oh, this cape's amazing. I'm the biggest OneNote fan. I've been using OneNote for so long. I love OneNote. It's the best." And so it was almost like Ari and I were getting mobbed with our capes. And so after the BET conference ended, we said, "Oh gosh, it seems like people are really into these capes. Hey, let's make a few more." And so after that, we started making more capes, and sort of the rest is history. And so I've got a couple more there. That's Ari and I when we were in, that was, I think, in Oslo again. And this is the BET conference where we first had our capes on. And here's another, just since we have cape trivia, if anyone out there knows, put it in the comments in LinkedIn, or put it in the comments in YouTube later. If special gold OneNote points, if you know who the guy sitting next to me with the cape is, right there. And my only hint is he's an engineer who worked on the original class notebook. Probably, again, I'm not going to say the best because I don't want to make anyone feel bad. At least tied for the best engineer I've ever worked with in my entire life. So if you know who that is, maybe I'll say at the end what his name is. But he no longer works at Microsoft. He's moved back home to Malaysia. But guy is amazing. Love working with him. And for the capes, this is, again, one of my very favorite photos. This is from the Education Exchange Conference a couple years later. I think this was maybe in Budapest, or I lost track of which one this was from. But we gave all the educators from all around the world, you can see all these flags. There's, over 100 countries represented here. And they all had capes, and it was kind of like a big, I call it the United Nations of super teachers. And all these educators from all around the world, and and seeing them wear one-note capes is that much better. So I figure that's a nice little sidetrack, giving you some history on the one-note cape. Okay, so we'll go back to some questions here. Okay, let's say we've got another question. Oh, here's a good one. This one is from Debbie in England. And it is, how can I make my lessons more interactive, fun using the Teams platform? I'm using the basics, but I'd like to do a session where the learners are more active. So that's a great one, Debbie. There are many things you can do in Teams. And so Teams itself is a great platform, but one of the biggest benefits of Teams is it is a platform. And usually what a platform means is other apps, other partners, other people can build their incredible software and creativity into apps that can be used on the platform. So one of the biggest things that we've seen in the last year or two is an explosion of apps in Teams. And this is not just for education. This is for all teams around the world, like Teams Corporate, Teams Education, Teams for nonprofits. And in education in particular, I've been lucky enough to work with some of these amazing partners. And again, there's a quick tip video. I actually put together some examples of a bunch of the best apps for Teams and ed tech apps in Teams. So I show how to set them up and how to use them. But for example, one of the most popular right now is Kahoot. There is a Kahoot app, so you can run a Kahoot inside of Teams. Now you can share to Teams assignments with your Kahoot app. So Kahoot is used by, I don't even know how many millions, tens and tens of millions of people around the world now, probably over 100 million. I've lost track. But Kahoot is great. Another one is Wakelet. Wakelet is, I guess, that's not as much for engagement. Wakelet's an incredible one for integrating it and capturing research and information and putting it all together. Buncee is another great one. They're an interactive app. You can create incredibly fun and engaging. They're called Buncees. They're like kind of interactive digital stories is the way to think about it. Buncee integrated into Teams. Also, both Nearpod and Pear Deck are very popular engagement platforms for learning. That's their sort of key is that engagement. And both Nearpod and Pear Deck are in Teams. So if you go into Teams and hit the little plus tab and search for any of those, Buncee, Pear Deck, Wakelet, Nearpod, Kahoot. Also ThingLink. ThingLink is a great one for engagement inside of Teams. Even the new polls that we've added, the quick polls that you can add inside of a meeting, that can make a meeting a little bit more engaging than maybe it normally is. And so explore out there. There's always more and more apps that we're launching in Teams. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. The other one that is, hopefully people out there know what Flipgrid is. Flipgrid can be used inside of Teams, and Flipgrid is one of the most engaging apps. Now, it's typically not synchronous, meaning at the same time, but you can go in there and make assignments with Flipgrid, and students typically love Flipgrid. It's a very engaging platform overall. So hopefully some of those ideas will help. And again, we'll put links in the description for these videos, and also hopefully Marileine's able to get them out to people as well. Another question from Piper in the US. And this is a good one. And I'll just say, I will not give the definitive answer yet, but, I'll squint. The question is, can teachers turn off the chat feature during live teaching? So for example, I'm in a meeting right now and I'm leading class and I'm like, you know what? I want to just disable the chat feature right now. Just like turn it off. Right now, you cannot do that. Now, we've heard your feedback loud and clear, and I will say we're actively working on that feature and it's coming soon. I can't promise a date right this second, but it's coming sooner rather than it is later. Let's just put it that way. And what it'll do is in the meeting options, you'll be able to choose it by default. So in meeting options before the meeting, you can just say disable chat for this meeting. But also in the meeting itself, you'll be able to real time be like, you know what, during this part of the presentation, no chat for you. And again, this is not just for education. This is corporate meetings. There's a lot of times during a corporate meeting where you just want to say, turn off the chat. People are getting distracted. Focus on the content and then turn chat back on later. Or it might be sort of a webinar situation in Teams where you're presenting and you just don't want people chatting. You're like, oh, people are going to say crazy stuff in the chat. So before the meeting even starts in meeting options, you'll want to turn that chat off. So like I said, that is not available today, but we've heard you loud and clear, and that will be coming in the future, and it'll be coming sooner rather than later. Best way to put it. Another one here is, let's see, we've got Katie from Canada. So the question is, best practices in terms of taking attendance online. What options are there to track attendance that is most efficient? So that's a great question. And Teams currently has an attendance feature. Right now, you have to, like, if you are in the actual Teams meeting, if you open up the attendee pane in Teams, you can see the little download attendance, and it'll download a spreadsheet of who's in the meeting and when, has all the listings. The painful part is you have to do it in the meeting. So we are actively working on, and it's very close to being done. Again, I can't promise a date, but I can say it's very soon, that we're going to improve that attendance experience. And that means I will be able to download attendance after the meeting ends. Hallelujah. And we're going to add some more information into that download attendance report. It'll be a little bit richer. Right now, it's pretty sparse. So you have more information. You'll be able to download it afterwards. Then also that meeting recap feature, for those of you that are watching all the great Teams features, you'll know that that Teams meeting recap is coming in the future. If you had attendance taken, you'll be able to grab the attendance report in one nice place. So the meeting recap will have things like, what were the attachments? Was there a transcript or a recording? Was there attendance? You'll be able to grab all that stuff. It'll be just really nice in one place. Now, the other thing is, if you're an educator, we have the Insights app that is free. So you can add, if you go to the Plus tab, and again, I have a quick tip video on this as well on my YouTube channel. You can go and add the Insights tab to your app. When you add Insights, you can then, it'll automatically, you can pull in meetings. It pulls in meeting data now. So that's kind of a way it's kind of like taking attendance. You can know exactly what students were in what meetings and when, and it can automate all of that for you. So, if you have that Insights app, I would encourage you, try out, especially the new updated one is really nice, because that one allows you to kind of look at the meetings, and even when students were active at the meetings, when they weren't active, and whatnot. So that's in the video, and I'll just put this back up again. For those of you that don't know me or didn't know that I make a lot of these quick tip videos, this will be posted on the YouTube channel afterwards on my YouTube channel. And also I put the link here on the screen, so go check it out and subscribe, because I'm going to be putting a lot more quick tip videos out there in the future. Kind of whenever we have new features coming out, we have new updates, I'm trying to launch some of these videos so people can get up and running fast. The whole point of the channel is save you time and give you like very condensed, typically, information with not a lot of fluff. So check that out. The other thing I mentioned earlier is, if YouTube is too long for you, if you can't handle a 3 or 4 minute video, you don't have time, I recently started making TikTok videos. So that's a minute or less. Micro talk, micro tips. I make micro tip videos. And my TikTok alias is the same as my Twitter handles on here. I didn't put my TikTok on there because I don't know TikTok well enough yet. I'm just getting up and running. But I do have a bunch of less than 1 minute tips. So if you want to, if I got 4 minutes, you don't have time for that, you just got time for 45 seconds, TikTok's where it's at. So check that out as well. Okay, let's see. I've got some more questions. Let's see. It looks like Lizzie has a couple. We'll put this one up. It says, what are reasons that whiteboard shared through a meeting will go black? That is, I think, on the recording. So, and how do you fix it? So great question, Lizzie. So we are working actively. So right now, unfortunately, when you record a meeting, the whiteboard part, if you're sharing it, is not recorded in there. We know that's a top request. Actively working on it. I don't have a date to share when it's going to be done. But when that is done, you'll be able to, when you record meeting, the whiteboard will show up in the meeting recording itself. And very similarly, for example, if you spotlight someone in a Teams meeting right now, spotlight's when the video is just on them and there's all the other videos along the bottom. When you record that meeting, unfortunately, the spotlight is not kept. It just shows everyone. So that we know is a top request, and that's one that we are actively working on. And another question, also got a couple from Lizzie here, so yeah, I'll answer all of them at the same time. When will breakout room transcripts be available? Do we need to record these rooms for it to work? We have not yet shipped the transcripts feature of breakout rooms. It's in beta right now. It's R3 it's called. It's going to be coming very soon. I can't promise a date, but again, sooner rather than later. It's one of the top things we're working on. But what will happen is when you record a meeting, you will be able to turn on a transcript, which means anything anyone has said is being captured. So if Mike talks, it has a Mike colon in my name. If Maryline talks, it has Maryline colon. If Ivan talks, Ivan colon. And then it'll save that entire transcript and post it as part of that meeting recap. And you can download the transcript. Great for inclusive classrooms, great for deaf and hard of hearing, great for non-native speakers, great for someone who just wants to speed through the meeting and read it because it goes way faster when you're reading. So that is something that is actively being worked on for regular meetings as well as breakout rooms. Again, I can't promise a date, but it's coming very soon. Again, much sooner than later, and it's already in a broad range of sort of early beta testing right now. And actually, we'll just do a Lizzie trifecta here. When will meeting attendance download automatically? So that's going to be, again, with this new meeting attendance update I talked about maybe 5-10 minutes ago. That is going to be coming where it'll download automatically. If you use the Insights app, it will automatically pipe into there. But if you're not in education and you're just in the corporate world, the automatic meeting attendance can coming very, very soon, sooner rather than later. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's a good question from Mark. What other topics and ideas will you feature on AMA future episodes? Well, that's a good question, Mark. I don't even know yet. The first goal was to make it past this AMA, which we got a little bit of time, but we're getting towards the latter half. I'm open to whatever people want. I definitely love to bring in guests in the future, have an AMA, and maybe have a Teams product manager with me, or have a OneNote PM or whoever. And also we could have different topics on specific things. This was a sort of on anything. We could say AMA on Teams or AMA on a certain product or AMA on a certain time of year. I'm up to whatever. So now or later in the YouTube comments, what do you want to hear future AMAs on? I am up for anything. And actually, speaking of Ask Mike Anything, I'll do another sort of I feel like it'd be kind of fun and maybe a little goofy. I figured for those of you that don't know me, I like to do kind of quirky things. Clearly, I'm wearing a cape all the time. I figured maybe some of you might want to see a picture of me when I was but a young, quirky kid. And I'm going to put up a photo. I'm not going to say I'm proud of it, but I'm proud that I was wearing what looks kind of like purple. But check out that haircut. If that doesn't say, what was that? Probably 1980, maybe 81. Look at those bangs. Did I cut those myself? Like, who knows? But anyways, that's a photo of me as a young soccer player from Bellingham, Washington, wearing purple. Didn't know at that time that it would turn into purple capes. And you saw me earlier, got a purple OneNote mask too. Another one that, for those of you that don't know me that well, I'm also a musician and do a lot of stuff with music. And I didn't wear this all the time, but sometimes, because I like to be a little different, I wore that around sometimes in my senior year in high school, which is like a blue rooster tail mohawk. Back when my hair wasn't so gray. So there's that, and if you can see, that's my guitar strap. I had a bullets on my guitar strap. I look at myself and cringe, but I think everyone does that, right? You're like, oh my goodness, that's what was I thinking? But even later in life, I dressed up, look at that, I'm like Gene Simmons, playing the banjo. I like costumes and dressing up. What can I say? So I've dressed up like Gene Simmons many times in life. I've wore that to work many times in life. I've frightened my new teammates. I usually like to wear it when I join a new team and people don't know me that well, and I show up and they kind of get freaked out. So I figured I'd show a few fun photos of my past. For those of you that don't know me that well, just know that, I'm a Gene Simmons banjo playing person every so often, and hopefully that means that we're still okay. Okay, we can get back to some of the questions now. Let's see. We have one. Let me find. Let's see here. This one is from Stefan in Germany. Which version of OneNote do you recommend to use in the future? And when will the appearance and design of all versions become more similar? It's a great question. Now, that's one, I can't 100% answer that one exactly. I would say it depends. Unfortunately, that's always the answer. Now, OneNote Desktop, which I talked about earlier, is getting rejuvenated. It's bringing back to life. It's getting modern sync. It's getting math features, immersive reader. It'll be kind of getting modernized, and it's going to be put back into the Office installation. That's coming out sort of like rolling into spring, and even now and rolling into spring. If you're Insider, it's going to be coming soon, an Office Insider. So OneNote Desktop, if you want more features, it has more features, more capabilities. We're bringing some of the pieces of OneNote Windows 10 into the desktop. Some teachers and a lot of enterprise people still like the desktop because they're used to it and it has more capabilities. Now, OneNote for Windows 10 and the web version and Mac and iPad, they all have more similar user interface. OneNote for Windows 10 is a lot of students find that one easier to ramp up on more quickly, and it looks the same everywhere. In terms of OneNote Desktop, there may be some things we do in the future to make that feel a little more similar in user interface. Like I'm not claiming anything here. Like I don't know specifically what we may or may not do, but I know there's a goal in some places to try and figure out ways we can make them feel a little more similar. And so, again, the answer is kind of it depends. A lot of students use OneNote inside of Teams, like in the web. And, that's easy. It works on any device, looks the same everywhere. We're making a bunch of improvements in the web version of OneNote to make it faster, to make it improve the quality, add more features. So the OneNote web version is going to be getting better and better too, like a lot of the Office apps. If you've seen those out there, we've been making a lot of improvements to the Office apps. So hopefully that answers your question. Here's one from Shelly in the US. I'd like to move away from planbook.com and incorporate that all in Teams in OneNote with a calendar. How can I replicate planbook.com's day, week, month view? Well, first off, I haven't seen planbook.com, but it sounds like it has a day, week, month view and an integrated calendar. And again, without promising anything, I will say a very, very top piece of feedback our team has heard, the education team, is I'd love to be able to better integrate assignments into a calendar in a unified way in Teams. And that's been a top request for a couple of years. And so our team is definitely thinking about that. We've heard you loud and clear. It's something that we would love to be able to address in the future. I can't say or promise anything here today other than we've heard you and we know it's a very, very important request for educators. So stay tuned on that. We just put out what's called a channel calendar, which isn't exactly what I think Shelly wants, but it is handy. If you have a lot of channel meetings, this just rolled out recently, and there's a quick tip video I have on that. And hopefully we'll get that in the description later. You can add a channel calendar. Just hit the plus and type in channel. Channel calendar comes up. And when you add it to Teams, it will actually overlay a calendar over any channel meetings you've scheduled in that channel. So if you have a bunch of channel meetings that are all happening, it's kind of just like anyone who pops into that channel can just hit the calendar and say, oh, here's when all the meetings are. So it's actually pretty handy. I've used it in a couple of channels that I have. It's just a nice time saver. And again, you have a calendar in Teams, but it sort of pulls together everything. If you're part of a work group or a project team and you just like, what are the weekly calendars for that thing or the weekly meetings, just popping on that channel calendar, that can be pretty helpful. So if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. Okay. Another one from LinkedIn. We've got Thomas. Allowing my students to annotate any screen I'm sharing would be great. It would allow me a lot more to be a lot more spontaneous in my classes. Yes. So Thomas, there's a couple things. Part one, annotate your screen. I'm assuming the app you're using. So right now you could launch the OneNote app, or you could launch Whiteboard for Windows 10 or Whiteboard in the web and annotate and live share. So that's actually quite common. the thing that I'll talk about, and we announced recently, earlier I talked about presenter view, and presenter view in Teams, which recently came out. In PowerPoint, you can actually annotate over the slides as you're talking. So behind the scenes, there's a little inking and laser pointer, and you can ink all over your screen as you're presenting. With presenter view, we just came out within Teams. We don't yet have that inking capability, but we can share that is a top thing we're working on right now, and we will be adding inking capabilities and that laser pointer and all that good stuff to the Teams presenter view in probably spring timeframe, early spring. Don't know the exact date. So that'll mean you can switch that presenter view, see your notes, see the chat, see all the slides along the bottom, and annotate on top of your slides that everyone else will see on their end. So that's coming soon, and that should be hopefully very helpful. Okay, another question. This is about assignments, and Peter is asking, can you share assignments between teachers? You sort of. You can pull from existing. If you're a co-teacher, so let's say you have a set of assignments, and there's Teacher Mike and there's Teacher Maryline. And I've added Teacher Maryline has access to my team. You can use from existing and pull from teams that you might have be a part of. So if you use the teams from existing, you can pull from existing assignments and older teams. If you have access to those older teams, you can do that. You can also, what's kind of cool is rubrics. So Teams supports rubrics. And again, I've got quick tip videos for that. And we can get the links out if you want to understand how rubrics work. But in education, they're pretty popular. With the rubrics, you can export all your rubrics as a CSV Excel file. And then what a lot of teachers do is in Teams, they create a PLC team. And the PLC team is where teachers collaborate, a professional learning community. Then they will upload that CSV of all the rubrics they used into the PLC team. They'll make a little folder and files and just dump a bunch of their Excel CSVs. Like, here's my science rubrics, here's the history rubrics, here's the math rubrics. And all the science teachers can dump their rubrics into a shared folder. And then anyone in that PLC can grab that Excel file. And then in Teams, you can import back into your team. So you're like, oh, I grabbed Mrs. Smith's rubrics from the PLC. I put them on my OneDrive, and then I import that into Teams, and I can just reuse those rubrics. So that's actually reusing rubrics is right now easier than reusing assignments just because we save them off as Excel files. You can obviously, if someone has a document, it's easy to reuse that. So the from existing, and make sure you have co-teachers in your teams if you want to be able to see or access what are the teams that they've been doing. Okay, we'll wrap up. We'll do maybe one or two more questions here. And thanks if you're still hanging out here. This is great. Actually, one other thing I'll show just for fun, just for kicks here. I'm going to switch a camera view, and here is, let me just switch over here. I've got a little webcam there. You can kind of see if I point in the right direction. Over there, you can see some other stuff. You can see the green screen behind me. So, and there's a bunch of other stuff in the room. So this is like I won't call it a man cave. I'll call it it's kind of like a studio. I'm a musician, but I've got, refrigerator and some instruments, and there's like a couch back there, and I've got a bunch of recording equipment. And so that's just this is my first time doing a live StreamYard. So I'm just showing a different camera angle I thought might be interesting. There's my green screen. It's just like a little stand behind me. And then I switch back there, and through the magic of software, I'm hanging out in my brick-laden Minecraft room again. So a little behind the scenes in my studio room. Okay, I'll find the last question or two here, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one. There's another OneNote question. Okay, the question is, what is the long-term strategy regarding taking and saving videos in OneNote? Will we eventually see a player view for videos embedded in OneNote so videos can be played inside of OneNote? Well, I've got good news for you, and then I've got future good news for you. So the good news is OneNote currently, you can already embed certain videos into OneNote, certain video types. So you can embed a YouTube video, paste a YouTube link, it'll render the video. You can paste Vimeo, paste a Vimeo link, it renders it, you can play it interactively. Paste a Flipgrid Shorts video. If you use Flipgrid, the Shorts camera, paste a video, it'll be in there. TED Talk videos work in there. Even Stream, so you can paste a Microsoft Stream video and embed. Now, what we'd like to do, and for those of you, and I feel bad because I was the one who announced it on stage with a cape at Flipgrid Live over a year ago. We want to add the ability to record video in OneNote, web record video. Imagine a world in which OneNote, you go insert and hit record video in OneNote Web or other clients, and it pops up the little Flipgrid web video recorder. It records you as you, whatever you're doing, record your screen or record yourself, hit done. It uploads that into Stream and then embeds the video thumbnail right there. So then you have the embedded video. And so we announced that. Unfortunately, this thing called COVID hit, and a bunch of our schedules and plans got tossed up in the air and everything got complicated. And so the summary is it got delayed. But it's still getting planned. And trust me, I desperately want to get that out as soon as we can. But I don't have a date to share yet, but it's top of my list. It's something we want to get done. So the ability to record video in OneNote and embed it, whether you're in education or not. So that can allow students to record video, anyone to record video, teacher to record video and give video feedback in OneNote, screencast, screen record in OneNote, because the Flipgrid recorder allows you to capture your screen. Like, I can't tell you how many teachers over the years have said, Mike, can we just have a screen recorder built into OneNote? Well, once we add this video component, you will. So stay tuned. Watch my Twitter feed, watch my YouTube channel. I'll be sure to post the second that is actually done. I apologize again for the delay. I blame COVID. That's the best I can do. Okay, we will take one last question here. Let me find one here. And this is one, I think I'll put this one up because it's something we kind of do now, not really, but it's, again, one we hear a lot about, and I'd love to hear more feedback from you in the future about what's the best way to do it. Question is, are there plans to give parents access to students' assignment information so they know what tasks the students need to do and by when? We kind of have a very little piece of that. For those of you that don't know, we have the Parent and Guardian Digest. So that is a digest that gets sent out once a week, has all the assignments, when they're due. It's not super configurable. The IT admin has to turn it on. I have a video. Here's a quick tip. Subscribe there on the channel there. There's a video for it. But in terms of currently, that's all we have. It's okay, but it's not configurable. It's only once a week, and it's not real time. Now, that said, we have had a lot of feedback where people have said, I'd like to be able to just sign in and see a view of what my students need to have coming up on a more regular basis. And again, this has probably been one of the top pieces of feedback that we've heard. But right now, I don't have any dates to share or details other than we know it's a top request. We do know it's important. And in the meantime, the stopgap is you can use that Parent Digest and enable that in Teams assignments. And so with that, we're going to wrap up the first ever AMA, the maiden voyage. It's actually on Inauguration Day in the US. Maybe it's appropriate. It's the first one here. We're inaugurating the AMA Ask Mike Anythings. I hope to do more in the future. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see. What do you want to hear? This will be posted on YouTube shortly. And we'll also get all the links in the descriptions with all of the videos posted as well. So stay in touch, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.